Hello everyone, welcome back. Tonight I figured I would go back to the material design XAML project. It's been a while. I've let things kind of get out of hand. I figured try to get the 4.7 stuff buttoned up and ready to go and start prepping for the 5.0 release. There's a lot of breaking changes and things that I'd like to see change, and I started bumping into some of those these last couple weeks, and I was like, it's probably time to start prepping that release. It's going to be big, it's going to be ugly, it's going to make a mess. Let's do it. But first, a brain teaser. I thought about posting this on the opening sequence leading into it, and then didn't have it prepped in time. So I'm not going to give the answer now, but here's the problem. I've got a unit test. I've got a method called getTrixieBool, and then I've got two assert statements to assert whether B is not equal to true and B is not equal to false. So the brain teaser, implement this method such that this test passes. So that's the brain teaser. I'll slap the, if anybody's interested, there's made a mess of things. Yucky. Okay. So aside from OBS and Twitch not formatting that very nicely, that's the brain teaser. If anybody's interested, solution later. For anybody who's interested in wanting to make your head hurt about there being more than two values for Boolean, since everybody will tell you that a Boolean only has two values, I submit that it can have more than two. So yes, brain teaser. Benjamin, all you have to do is write a method that returns a bool where that bool is not equal to true and not equal to false. How hard could it be? Good luck. And to be clear, there's no funky IL manipulation or runtime manipulation or any of that garbage. None of that. These are the legit XUnit assertions. There's no changing it here. It's all about implementing this method. And it can be done with just plain old C#. And you don't even need to be on latest version or anything. Old C# will work too. I don't know how far back, but you can go back quite a ways. Probably like, I don't know, 6, 5, something like that. So it's all C# syntax. So just write a method that returns a bool that's not true and not false. Okay, material design in XAML. Material design in XAML. So I was going to go here. There's a couple pull requests I think I was going to take a look at first. First of all, we're going to smash this icon thing. Get that in. Throw that into the milestone. Sure, squash, merge. New icons, away we go. Okay, that's easy. Let's take a look at this one. So let's check it real quick. Let's see, domain. So this is all demo app stuff, so that's fine. So approve and run. There's nothing scary there. Demo app. No. Didn't I just click the approve and run button, GitHub? Approve and run. I give my permission. Do the things. Okay, so all this is fixed for 3808. So let's jump here. I kind of want to just look at the issues. Got it. So we're gonna, perfect. So found, fixed the issue. I think this is wonderful. Let's get all of that fixed. I approve. Excellent. Excellent. Okay, let's check and make sure I'm not missing anything else. There's a XAML test error, which we may circle back to. There's this one. Not a big deal. This is the other one I wanted to look at. I'm going to slap this one into the release. And add this guy into the release as well. Okay, so rotated combo box. So when there's a rotate transform. Okay. We'll be wrong for values other than 0. Okay, so we have the issue with the... Wow. This is actually interesting. I don't know if I've ever seen somebody rotate a combo box. This is one of those cases where I do wonder, like, I think it's fine to handle this, but there's a certain amount of changes where at a certain point, the template becomes very purpose built. But let's take a look. It's probably not terrible. So this is just demo app, so we're going to ignore that for the moment. Boolean to double converter. This is, once again, just demo app stuff, so I don't care that much. The converter looks fine. So I will make one comment here. This pattern with a markup extension for a value converter, I used to love this a lot. And it's not a bad thing to do, just to be clear. This is totally legit. What it allows you to do, and there's probably an example here. Yeah, Boolean to double. It allows you to get away with stuff like this, right? Where you, rather than declaring the converter up in your resources and then static resource down below and whatnot, it lets you just declare your converter in line, which is great. Simpler, more concise syntax, a lot less typing. All of those things are good. The only reason I've moved away from telling people about it or recommending it is because if you use this type of value converter inside of something like a data template that gets applied to something like a list, you're creating a new instance of your converter every single time. And usually that's not a big deal, but in things like lists where performance and memory start to add up, there's been a number of times where I've seen this pattern just bloat memory because of how many instances this gets created. Because if you declare your value converter inside your resource dictionary and then reference it with a static resource, all of those things, you'll get one instance and they'll all reuse the same instance. So there's that. Uses flags, enums. Ooh, good question, Justin Bieber. So going back to the, where is it? This guy. No, the signature of the method that I have is just return. So it's straight up bool return. So nothing fancier than that. Nice thought though. It's fun to get the brain ticking. Okay, so this guy here, this assumes a layout transform, and specifically a layout transform of a rotate transform. This is where things start to get weird because there's multiple ways to do it. And a common pattern on a lot of these transform properties is to not just declare your rotate transform directly, but to create a transform group and apply the group directly. This would not handle the group case. And I don't know if that's a big issue or not. I do like this Epsilon comparison. So people not familiar with, here, and I'll make this a little bigger. That's a little big. I wish I could collapse this. So this pattern here, the math absolute values, and then doing a less than or equal to, this is a common way of doing floating point comparisons. Because if you just do a double equals on a double value, you run into rounding issues where two doubles may not be equal. Even though they legitimately should be, because there's certain values that can't be accurately represented with a double. So the solution is typically to like add or subtract, and then compare to see if it is close to an epsilon. So in this case, it's looking for -90 because it's adding 90, taking the absolute value, and then checking to see if it's a really tiny number. Meaning, is this close to 0? So this may not be obvious what it's doing, but that's effectively what it's doing. And then down here is the inverse. It's looking for +90 because it subtracts 90 and then checks for, hey, is this a tiny rotation? So, which made sense. This is looking for 90-degree transforms. Yeah, like this code is as I would expect. It is as I would expect. I wonder if the better solution is just to expose the callbacks. I wonder if that might be better. Because there's all these situations, like I said, I could see this breaking very quickly as soon as somebody it works for my rotate transform, but as soon as I throw that rotate transform inside of a transform group, everything fails. That's not real great. We end up with another weird problem. And I'm wondering if a better solution is to allow for putting a callback on the combo box itself. That way users could provide it, because it's really hard for this library to try to account for every possible case that a transform could do. And then more importantly, that same comment from Nikolai on the working around the symptoms. Yeah. This seemed like a better approach. How it works with the current implementation because of the special placement handling here. Yeah. 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 So this all works. I'm just wondering if it's better to give the caller more control over the placement and showing an example in the demo app rather than trying to handle it inside. I think we're going to hold off on this one for the moment. Again, the change isn't bad. I'm just wondering if it's the wrong change. And it's technically all internal stuff, so we could refactor it and change it later, but it would be a behavioral change. I think that's where. Let me check and see. I don't see Nikolai in the chat. Yeah. I'm going to let that one sit for a minute and think on it. Okay, so given that, let's see, this one passed. Huzzah, squash merge, squash merge. And then let's go grab that guy and close issue. This thing no longer needs evaluation. Great, great, great. It's demo app. Not real concerned. Not real concerned at all. Okay, let's check the milestone, and I want to look because I think one of these is a. There's that. There's that. This one. Yeah. So Okay, let's jump back here real quick. The flipper stuff, I think I'm just gonna punt. It's gonna be a breaking change no matter how it goes. So I think we're gonna save. Can I just punt you like that and move all of those forward? Because those are all the same underlying root cause. Okay, this one here I think is what I was thinking of. Yes. Okay, so there's some build conflicts. So let's look at this and see about trying to either rebase or merge or do something. So let's just double check. I think the conflicts are demo app. Yeah, so this is a demo app conflict, which I'm somewhat tempted to just remake manually. Because the demo app, I think, had major refactors. So is hit test visible? false there. Ripple assist disabled true. Ripple assist disabled true. So this is fine. It's just the demo app bit that's causing us grief. So let's see about rebasing this 2938. Let's go have some fun with Git Kraken. Git Kraken, you are my friend. Let's go see. Let's see here. So this, I think this is where I was looking at it before, if I remember right. Check out. I don't really want to reset my master pointer, so how about fix 2938? 2938. We'll use that. Okay, so this is the guy here that we really want. Oh, I guess I already did this like multiple times over, didn't I? Oops. Whatever. Okay, so I kind of just want to rebase this guy straight up on top of my master and then deal with the conflicts. Yep. Why is this? Okay, actually, you know what? This is going to be miserable if we go at it this way. Stop, abort, 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 abort. Okay. Back up. Where's my master? Past it. There you are. Just bring master in. And what are you squawking about? Okay, so I'm going to close Visual Studio before it does anything crazy, like try to be helpful. I don't know why you're open. That's open. Good. The only one I need open. And then you can wait for just a second. Okay, so master, right click, merge in. There's the conflict. Let's address. And what was the original change that we were going for here? This was specifically adding this item template here. Seems fine. Let's see. And I'm guessing it's just the formatting of this that's biting. Probably. Let's see here. So we have data template. So we kind of wanted to combine merge. Okay, so I think what we're going to do is take this, take everything on master, and then I'm going to manually bring in the demo app change. I think that's the easy way to handle this. Because there's just too much going on here that's going to be problematic. Let's go here. Okay, so close you. Don't need you anymore. Close, close, close. Make sure we're building. And then demos, demo app, tabs, tabs, tabs. Okay. Somewhere around the 560 area. Let's see, 560. Arnak, come on up. Okay, so I'll expand this guy out and see where we were at. Tabs with display member path. That's the one we were doing. Let's see. Yeah, so this here. I don't know if we have. Yeah, so we dropped that, but this thing was less about that and more about adding in the item template. So let's compare the item templates really quick. Custom header, close command, all of that stuff. Okay. And then this one here had the content, margin, font size, content, margin, font size. So that should be equivalent. Okay, so let's get a run through this and see what's going on. And we go tabs. And let's see, we are remember what we called this thing. There we go, custom items. Got it. So when you click on the X, interesting. So that still works. But when it's selected, it doesn't do the ripple. And if you click right on the button takes precedence and doesn't fall through to the underlying one. Okay, that seems reasonable. It's kind of what I would expect. Okay. That will double as the validation test. Let's see. Adding back in demo app change, commit, push. Okay, so that should trigger refresh. Good. Double check the changes here. That looks fine. That looks fine. This got knocked down a level. Let's go and do that real quick. Let's see. 5, 6, 2. Actually, it probably should be bumped down. I'm going to say that that's more correct. Oh, it's weird that GitHub is displaying it like this. Because of the indentation, this 564 is wrapping. It just looks funny. Okay. That just looks funny. Okay, we're going to hit approve, submit, and then that will get, let's see, enable auto merge, confirm auto merge. This is in 4.7. Let's make sure you are in 4.7. Good, good, good. Okay. Ba-bum. And we may, let's bump you two out of the milestone for now. So I'm not 100% wait, that not GitHub milestone? Oh, no milestone. Okay, I'm sorry GitHub for not trusting you. And this one here, we can drop the waiting on feedback because we fixed it ourselves. And then let's go back here. Boom, boom, boom. This is the issue for it. And then let's look at this one because it claims to be similar. I have a list box. I would like to use a button, but the button's click event doesn't get recognized like it was handled before. Yeah, so I'm going to put waiting on feedback on this one because I think this one has a workaround. Because there is that trade-off of if you're trying to change the behavior, that's probably what's biting you. So if you set the we don't do a lot of attached properties in this library that change behavior because I find it to be really unintuitive in a lot of cases. But this guy here is what is doing it. So this is slightly different than the other one. So I don't think that's actually related. We will drop the waiting on feedback there. That should merge. That should complete. Everyone's happy. Okay, next up. I think what we are going to do is we are going to take a run at trying to automate out this release. I think is where I want to go next. So right now, releases take a bit of work, and that's annoying the crap out of me. I would very much like it if a release could be this easy. I would like to hit draft new release. I would like to create a tag of v4.7.0, right? I would like to click this generate release notes button, and then I'd like to be done. This is how hard, like, I want the rest of the process to be put in motion by this, so I don't have to think real hard. This is the goal. This is the goal. And this does a pretty good job of it. So just for people who aren't familiar with it, that auto-gen release notes, you can configure what goes in there with one of these release.yaml files. So you'll note that there's a few things in here that I've got is I intentionally exclude anything that gets labeled as ignore for release because it's ignored. No one cares. I also eliminate the bot accounts that don't really matter because these don't really matter. We do have some key changes and some breaking changes and all of that. But there's a handful of other things that probably need to happen. So for example, I've got this generate milestone contributors that I would love to be able to do. So there's a previous stream where we actually built out this particular action. So this is a custom action set up here that is a little different. So the generated release notes, they go through and identify contributors, but I firmly believe that people who test out issues, comment, provide feedback, all of those things count. And so I have a slightly different way that I prefer to count contributors versus just straight pull request, which doesn't, it feels a little more accurate as far as people who are actually making contributions, because sometimes there are contributions that aren't direct pull requests, because I've had people go through and write a bunch of docs for me. That is hugely valuable. That should count. So we wrote this guy up, and this will go through and gen up the information, which is close to what I want, right? I can gen it, but I would like to actually plug this in and get it actually working all the way through. Sorry, a colleague is being weird and messaging me. Quit. Boom. There. So turn that off. Okay, so you can see here it actually generated the output, came through, pulls it all out. It also does a handful of other things like omit me from the list because So, but this does have all of the output. So I'd kind of like to tie some of these bits together and make this process go a little bit nicer. The other thing I would love is when I draft a release, like I would like to hit save as draft, and then have the whole process go into motion so I can review it and then publish the draft. Like ideally I'd like to get all of the binaries attached and all of that stuff going. So I think that's where we're going to go next, is I'd like to try to start trying to automate a little bit of this process to make my life not suck, so that we can like I'd like to be able to kick releases out really quickly. And right now I can't. And that makes me annoyed. So annoyance is the mother of invention or something like that. So we're gonna clean this stuff up a little bit. So let's start. Let's go into. Nope. What did you do? Stop it. Change com to dev. And away we go. We're going to powwow in... We're just going to do this straight up browser level work. Okay. Sync. Cancel. Why do I have uncommitted changes? So revert, discard any changes, then sync me up. Okay. Reload required. Git lens, reload required. Well, reload it and reload my extensions, please. Thank you. Okay, so create new branch. Let's do release process. So we're gonna switch branch. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Let's take a look here at what is firing. So this is firing on the creation of a tag. I think we kind of want to turn that off. Because the creation of that tag it's not really what I want. Because that's what's pushing stuff out. And I kind of want to just not do that. Set nightly release version numbers, because I kind of want to just block all releases for the moment so that I can play with this without going too hog wild. But I do want to, in order to test this, we're going to have to actually set it up to trigger appropriately. So there's going to need to be some work there. I think all I need to do is let's start by turning this off. Or actually, we can just avoid pushing a tag with V in front of it and call it a day. And then we won't have to worry about this. Cool. So we can powwow from our own branch. Okay. GitHub Actions documentation. So what I want to find is the trigger for events that trigger workflows. I want to confirm that there is an event that triggers when I do... So we're not going to do 2, 3. I want to confirm that this creates it. And obviously this is probably going to we want to go, I want to get out of here. Draft new release, choose a tag, 1, 2, 3. So that's going to do it. Oh, did it just go live? Delete this release. We're going to get real good at deleting stuff here in a second. I can see it now. Yep. Delete from origin. Delete. Delete locally. Delete. Okay. Let's try this again. Draft new release. Choose a tag. 1.2.3. I'm going to keep my hand away from the enter key. Release 1.2.3. Okay. Gen release notes. Okay, so the key things we want is the contributor stuff added and the artifacts added to this draft release. That's what we're going for. Okay, so we want draft release. Let's go here. Okay, so we probably want webhook release. And I assume either created or unpublished is going to be what we're looking for. Let's see. When stable and pre-release publishes, we don't really do pre-release publishes, so that doesn't matter to me. Okay, so created is not fired for draft releases, so that is explicitly not what I want, because I definitely want draft. So I'm guessing if created isn't it, pre-released must be what I am looking for, I think. So let's start there. Let's see. Okay. Uh, what do we call this? Package release YAML, something like that, maybe. Okay, so we're gonna start there, and we are going to do. We're going to assume that pre-released is the trigger that, or the specific type that we want. Let's see here. We're also going to add workflow dispatch because I pretty much always add that. And then let's do a name of, I don't know, package release. Or how about prepare release? Might actually be a better name. Let's see, rename. Prepare release. Okay, great. Okay, so step one, we're going to jobs, and then inside we'll create a job that is collect contributors, I think, and we're gonna go here and let's see. So there's the job inside there. We're gonna do that maneuver. About a list of contributors. All of this stuff, run about Joe. And then here, I would like to know if there is a way GitHub Ref is going to be the tag name. So in this case, I want to do, I believe it's the GitHub Context with the GitHub Ref. Let's confirm that. GitHub Ref. Oh, what was that? Nope. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's see. Where are the contexts? Context. Yes. And the GitHub context, I would like to look at that. I believe you have a ref of the action being executed. I thought I would see. I think what we actually want is action ref. For a step executing action, this is the ref of the execution being executed. Oh, no. That's not what I want. That's not what I want. Workflows triggered by a release. This is the release tag created. So I want GitHub Ref. It's the magical thingy. Which means I probably can't do workflow dispatch. And this is, right now it is making the assumption that the milestone is linked here. And I think that's an okay assumption, but we'll need to validate that. Okay, I think that's good. The problem is I can't test this on a side branch, I don't think. So we're gonna try to build out as much of this as possible. Let's see. Build artifacts. So we want to do that maneuver. So we want to do this, at least to start. What is there? It is. There's my multi-cursor. Okay, so we want to do checkout, build and test. This is going to need all of those thingies defined, which is fine. We can get those thingies up here. I wonder if there's a way I can reach back. I don't think there is. I was just wondering if there's a way to go back to and look and see if there's already a build and use those generated artifacts. This is pull request verification. I thought I clicked on a master build. Interesting. Oh, right, because those don't trigger until nightly. I want something like this. Got it. So I would have to go back and find one that actually ran and did something like this. And this one should have artifacts associated with it. Yeah, so that's the hard part. Because I build artifacts nightly rather than on demand, we are going to need a compilation. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Build and test. I'm quickly thinking these versions are going to need to move somewhere. I'm not really sure how much value this one is buying me or this one, but whatever. Because how often have I ever changed this? I think the answer is never. Okay, so that will get me artifacts. Let's go back here. It'll get me the build. I have push artifacts. What does this one actually do? Upload NuGets. Upload demo app. So this is all fine. This pushes the, okay, so this will work. So we could actually do this. This is normally limited in how it triggers. But we're going to do this. Push artifacts. Let's do that. Back you up. Insert you a little bit. I should have all of those. That's still fine. That's still fine. I do need to make sure that I think if we're going to merge this, we're going to just real quickie do this maneuver. So we are going to temporarily just turn that off. I don't want to deal with that right this second. That seems like a bad idea. Okay, so this will push artifacts and add them. So that's fine, I think. The only problem I have, though, is maybe I shouldn't use this composite action. Because this guy here is doing more than I want. I'm going to just take these steps into here and axe this thing all together. Because I only want this thing... Because I want to push stuff up onto the release. I don't want to actually... I don't want to actually send them anywhere. And I'm okay uploading them onto the build run too, just as a validation mechanism. That's fine. Because I think what we're going to do here is... So that'll do contributors. That'll do that. Update release, I think is what we want here. Right? So we're going to end up doing this maneuver. Let's see. Name. Put that on there. Build artifacts. All right. Because I'm also going to want another one that gens the icon stuff for me as well. Let's see here. And then I think this one actually was setting a... Yeah, this other one was setting a runs on. We need to make sure we get that as well, because this one actually we're going to run on Windows because we got to do some stuff on Windows. Okay, so there's that. There's that. I think all that's fine. This guy is going to need a... Unintended. He's going to need a need. So this update release job is going to need the collect contributors to be completed and the build artifacts to be completed before he can run. We can do a runs on Ubuntu latest because we don't need anything fancy. And then what we want to do is find the incantation to update release. GitHub action update draft release. Yeah, I kind of just want to go to the marketplace. More than an hour. Why another build publisher? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so show me what you got. Update release with token files. I don't care about that. To easily get access to... all of us need to do continuous releasing on GitHub. Kind of am surprised to see that. So let's see, released. I kind of feel like I could also just do this with the... Okay, let's just look at the GitHub CLI. Okay, let's see. Maybe we should update real quick before I get too carried away. Let's see here. I think I am installed with... Well, let's see. I can't remember whether I did Choco or Winget on this, so I'm gonna find out here in just a second. Winget it is. Because I feel like this is an easy operation on the CLI. But what do I know? Okay, so GitHub. There we go. Okay, so I want to look at something about releases. GitHub release. Let's see, I don't want to create. I would like to GitHub release upload. That looks like step 1. Let's see. Overwrites existing assets of the same name. Cool. This kind of looks like what I want. GitHub release upload. I need tag and files, followed by flags. And I think for flag, we want clobber. Inherited flags, we are going to need to specify repo. And that seems pretty simple. Host owner repo. And we just have to identify it by tag. Okay, that seems... I feel like we just do this with the GitHub CLI. This feels a little too easy, right? Okay, so we're gonna go back to here. We're gonna do name, download artifacts. We'll come back to you in a minute. Name, add artifacts to release. Let's see, run. What is it? Is it that? I think it is. Let's see. And then this is going to be the ref. We're going to do that. I'm going to put it in quotes just because I don't trust myself to not put spaces in. And then I need to download artifacts. So there is a action for doing this. And I think I use it right here. Let's see. Download artifacts. Yeah, this thing. I want this thing. Okay. So, boom. Download artifacts. And then we just need the artifact name. So, this is doing NuGet's run number. I kind of want to look at this one to see if there's a... I kind of want this thing to clobber if it runs multiple times. So let's look at that real quick. So for actions, if you ever want to look them up, you literally do github.com/your action, and that'll take you to the repo. So I'm kind of wondering if there's a way to tell it to clobber. Uploading to the same artifact. Upload artifact with each artifact has accidentally via multiple jobs. Yeah, that's kind of what I want to do. So don't upload for multiple jobs. Fine, we're not doing that. I feel like I missed something here. When the following the artifact name artifact by D. The following example, the available artifact name artifact by default, if no name is provided, would contain both world txt hello and extra file. Oh. So I can do this. And I don't need to worry about it. Okay, so that That is a little bit nicer then. So I don't need to do that. I don't need to do that. Okay. I would like to look at download artifact with name NuGets. So how about download? I should probably leave the word artifacts there. Download NuGet artifacts. And then download demo app artifacts. Demo app. Because this name here has to match this name here. And then I want to know about this guy. Let's see, did I close it? I think I did. Let's see, github.com/that. And I assume I can give you, yes, a path. That is what I would like. Because I am going to have to, let's see, NuGets. Right, I assume path to artifact. That's going to download all of them. Path demo app. I guess we'll go like that. Okay, because this one here, I'm going to need to do NuGets/star. And then I want to do demo app/star. Okay, so that uploads that after all is said and done. Okay. This thing has input demo app path. I'm just realizing I don't think I specified that. Yeah, I didn't. How does the other one get the demo app path? It does this maneuver. So let's do the same maneuver here. Gonna need that guy. Okay, so that'll collect it there. That'll push it down. That'll add it there. Great. Okay. Release help. Now I want to append content. Release edit. Okay. How do I... So we definitely want to tack on --draft. Release notes. Note string. I'm just worried that this thing is gonna, if I do straight up edit, it's going to do more than I want. Mark the release as a pre-release. Oh, I'm just realizing that pre-release may not be the right. Right. Just realizing that may bite me. So we're gonna come back to this in a moment. Publish a release that was previously marked as a draft. Update the release notes, the contents of a file. I'm just wondering if this this probably replaces rather than appends. Can I do view without an explicit tag name R? Okay, so we could pull the current information. Okay, that gets to be interesting. Okay, so we're gonna start like nope, wrong thing. We're gonna start with this. I'm now less confident in my trigger. Let's see. Ooh. I am now pull request converted to draft. Okay, so uh, published instead of released and pre-released. Just worried that I'm going to get bit by a situation where published, unpublished. Is there an option to even go? Is there an option to even do that? Let's go back here for a second. Like if I go here, is there an unpublished button? Yeah, I'm gonna guess that I actually don't want pre-released and I want unpublished. I'm guessing that's actually what I want. I'm guessing that's actually what I want. Okay, so let's commit this. Testing new release workflow. Okay, we're gonna do that. We're gonna come over here. We're gonna go here. We're gonna go here. We're gonna go create pull requests. Squash merge. We're just gonna bypass and go straight on in. Boom. Okay. Generally, you don't click the big scary red button. In this case, we click the big scary red button because the PR is a new YAML file and we really just need it in so we can test. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is take my... Oh, the branch is gone, I bet. Let's see, close. Where's my... Too many remotes, too many things. Just want to fetch. There, reset. Okay. Now, if we come in here and we actually gen a new release, a draft release, mind you, we're going to draft a new release. We're going to create a tag of 471. Create new tag. 47. Oh, I guess it should be 470. Test release. Gen release notes. Save draft. Okay. Now the question is, did that trigger anything? Release process triggered. Yay! Wait. This is PR verification. I don't care about you. Go back. Go back. Pair release hasn't run. Wait. Commit put. Wait, what? Why did you... What? I am confused. Why did you attempt to run? Invalid workflow. You have an error in your XAML syntax, line 63. Well, that just... Doesn't that suck? 63. That's here. I don't think I have invalid syntax. I think I have invalid syntax here. Let's see. And I think I should put a name on here. Update release. And then Indent all the things. And I'm not actually confident in that line of my XAML either. Oh, no, that should be correct. Okay. Let's see. You have uncommitted changes. Suck. Well, whatever. We're gonna switch branches. I'm wondering if, for the purposes of testing, we just bypass the protected branches for a minute. Let's see. Oh, I guess we can bypass them. Interesting. Okay. Well, that's good to know. That's fun and exciting. So apparently I didn't need to do that. So needs name, update, release, steps. We do that maneuver. YAML fixing. And we are on master. Okay. Push. Yeah, that's a little creepy. It's a little creepy. Okay. Why are we all selected? Okay, pull request verification, cancel workflow. We don't need you to be running. Okay. Why is pull request verification firing on master pushes? What is going on? Pull request verification fires on pushes to master. Interesting. Do we want this? I guess we do. It makes sense because just building it on the pull request doesn't guarantee that it's going to work on the merge. So I guess we do want it. I just don't care about it right now. Okay, so that's fine, that's fine, that's fine, that's fine. Okay. Back to here. Go to the releases. We take this guy, we're gonna whack him. We're gonna draft a new release. Delete the tag? Cool. Oh, because it creates it on publish. Got it. Got it, got it, got it. Test release. Gen release notes. Save draft. Okay, and then I want to see a trigger. No trigger. Boy, that's going to be real disappointing if there's not a trigger I can find for this. That's going to be real disappointing. Activity tag. Workflows are not triggered for the created, edited, or deleted activity types for draft releases. When you create your release, so we might actually have to do created rather than saved as draft. Got it. what is, I wish I knew what all of these things were, or exactly which interactions triggered each of them. So if we go back and look at this, what do we got here? Publish, release, save as draft. That is, because we could publish the release. What does a you know what? Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go powwow on a different. I need a one that's not going to trigger anything. You'll do. Okay, releases. Great new release. Test. Testing. Let me see. Whole bunch of stuff. Great. Publish release. Okay, so that goes out the door. That builds the first release. Sorry, Joe, if you're watching, I just spammed you a little bit. The only thing I don't like about doing this is the build up here. You know, I guess the other thing we could do is let's look at, rather than, we don't have to trigger it from the UI. We could trigger it from a manual, yeah. What if we did it from a workflow dispatch? Yeah, and did something like this. What are my options here? Ah ha ha. See, I wonder if this might be better. Because then we could build it up and determine, yes. Okay, I like this. I like this better. Let's do that. That gives us a little bit more control. And then more importantly, we can test this from a side branch before just cowbowing everything straight on into, yes, yes, yes. Okay, this is coming together. This makes me feel more warm and fuzzy. Okay, so rather than doing that, we are going to do something similar to this, where we have a workflow dispatch and we're just going to ask for the incoming version. I think that makes a lot more sense. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna not trigger there. We're gonna go here and we're gonna call this version. Milestone. Call it milestone. You generate a release for. Okay. Cool. That all works. So this then becomes inputs. The same one that we had here. Inputs.milestone. Yeah. This becomes inputs.milestone. So this is where we're going to type in 470. Maybe we'll do a little sanity checking there. We need to find the other places we used that ref and kill it. Yeah, so we want to, okay, so we are not going to do this. How about this is going to become create release rather than, and then this will become create release. Yes. release create. Okay, this is what we want to do. This is what we want to do. So we do release create tag files. Yeah, so there's the tag. So we're gonna go release create v, and then I want to do, what is the I want to go inputs dot milestone, like that, for the tag. We want to use the generated release notes for the moment. We're going to add some more stuff to it. And then we want to path to assets and my display label here. So we can do this. So we want to do this maneuver here. This becomes NuGets. This becomes NuGets. And this becomes demo app. And demo app. No, we're gonna do a space. I'm feeling confident. Got it. So we're gonna push this one straight into master. Updating release process. We'll send it here because I think I have to do that to get the trigger to fire correctly in the UI at least. This we want to kill because I don't want to waste time. Okay, coming back, and then prepare release. So we would like to run workflow off master. The milestone be 4.7.0. We want to run the workflow. And then crossing fingers, everything works flawlessly first time. There's no way anything goes wrong. Because I don't mind a trigger like this. Okay, so it's fired up. Couple jobs going. This one's going. Build artifacts is going. And then hopefully all this just works. Did I see red? No. Okay, so build and test. It's going to do all the needful. And then I am interested in understanding if the combination of if you feed it a file plus gen release notes, how those things interact. Generate title and notes for the release. Oh, I think we probably also want latest on the end of it. Read release notes from file. Yeah, I'm not sure we really care about a lot of these things. Abort in the case. Oh, so we might actually have to create the tag too. Interactively create a release from specified tag. Oh, this isn't going to work because we didn't tell it what. Oh, I guess it would know the repo. It would know the repo because we're running inside of an action. Okay, so it should pick that up. I'll be curious to see what it does. So this guy finished, which is great. He genned a list. Everyone's happy. Huzzah, huzzah, huzzah. This build artifacts, and this is going to be the more interesting bit. What are you complaining about? We'll deal with that warning in a minute. So I'm curious where this guy is going. This is interesting. Okay, well, while we wait for that guy to go, let's go take a look at that brain teaser. So, as long as people promise not to throw things at me when they see the answer. Okay, so here is the lovely little trick to declaring a Boolean that is neither true nor false. So if we come down here, the step one is to abuse unsafe, which is the C# keyword for allowing you access to unsafe code or unmanaged code, or more accurately, the ability to use pointers and pointer math and do bad things that would normally only be allowed in C++. So you'll note we start off by just declaring a Boolean, effectively giving ourselves something that we can allocate. We then get a pointer to the location of that Boolean, because when you declare that Boolean, it is going to exist in memory somewhere. So we grab the location of that, and then we assign into that pointer's location the value of 2. And then we return that Boolean. And the problem is the way true and false are declared is in a lot of languages like C++, false is 0 and true is not 0. That is very different than true being 1. And most people always think of false being 0 and true being 1, because conceptually that makes a lot of sense. 2 states, 0, 1, we're binary. Huzzah, everyone works. But it doesn't have to go that way, and you can technically shove a different value into your bool other than true or false. Now, should you ever do this? No. Can you do it? Yes. So you should not bother writing code that handles the cases where your Booleans aren't true or false. That is a waste of your time, and you should never do it. Anyone who does this probably deserves what they get. I don't doubt this type of behavior has bitten somebody when dealing with some sort of maybe interop or similar, where something was expected to be a bool but came through as not a bool. But it is technically possible to have a Boolean that is neither true nor false. So there is the solution to the brain teaser, if anybody finds that interesting. So fancy little unsafe keyword to go through and do this. I was hoping to have some time to prep this and do it. I think I can do it without the unsafe keyword. I think going in with the Marshall class, you can get away with it. But I needed some time to play with it, and I don't know. Yeah, hard is correct. I should have warned you. It was not necessarily a trivial solution, because when you see code that looks like this, you just know that something bad had to be done to get there. If you haven't seen my calamities talk, I basically do a bunch of really, really bad stuff with C#. This one probably should have made it in there somehow of, I've got a bool that's neither true nor false. And watching people scratch their head about, wait, what? And you'll note I did even have to disable the warning, because XUnit realizes that you're doing something bad here and goes, like, if you turn this off, it warns you and says, hey, don't use not equal. That's a bad idea. You should use assert false. Well, the problem is this is a different check, right? I can't do assert false and assert true and get this thing to go through here, because this is guaranteed to fail, right? Because assert false is going to fail. Assert true is going to fail. Oh, and I guess in that case, it does go through and work. I wonder how they're checking for true and false. Oh, that is interesting. That is very, very interesting. That is interesting. Huh. Wonder why that works. I wonder why that works. Uh, the same problem, different approach. It's interesting that when I did assert true, this passes. Huh. The only thing that I noticed is that the assert true for bool upcasts into the true case for nullable bool, which upcasts here, which goes condition has value. It must be the get value or default. Oh, interesting. I wonder. Okay. Okay. I have a theory that get value or default fixes it. Um, so, right? That passes. But I bet you if I do B, get B to get value or default. Interesting. Why? Is it because it's still cast as a... Interesting. I honestly would probably have to play with this. I don't fully understand why. Yeah. I get it. I get it. You're unhappy X unit because I'm now doing a bool comparison. Hmm. Interesting. Interesting. I will have to play with that. At some point, I do plan on publishing out this brain teasers. I'm gonna put a bunch of stuff into a repo just to give people some semblance of fun. I think I'll probably move the solutions onto like a solution branch instead. That way, there's some differences, and you don't, and it's not as simple as just expand it. That way, people don't accidentally see the solution. You have to actually switch to the solution branch if you want to find it. But then everything's in there and people can see it and play with it and have all kinds of fun. I will warn you, the brain teasers, there's a few of them that do have some unsafe tricks with them that can be quite entertaining. Okay, build artifacts. Of course you failed. Of course you failed. Right. So none of these variables were declared, so it blew up and died. Okay. Okay, so here I think we can switch branches. Create new branch. New publish release. Thanks for the challenge. No problem. It was actually recommended to me, and assuming I prep appropriately, I'm gonna try to do like little brain teasers at the where I have my countdown timer at the beginning of the stream, just so there's something mildly more entertaining for people to watch than a simple countdown timer. Because I do have, I don't know, a dozen of them or so that I've saved over the years. It's just sometimes difficult to condense them into something that fits on only like 3 or 4 lines. That's the real hard part, is making it stream prep worthy for people. So I may end up moving some of them to like GitHub gists or something, and then just linking to those instead. That might be easier. Where was I going? Here. Yeah, here. Prepare release. Okay, so this guy here was relying on these variables being present. They clearly aren't. I think we can just go env instead and call it a day. Right? Because I think those are all named the same. MDIX version, MyApps colors version. Yeah. I think we can just go env on all of these. Call that simple. Yeah, so let's fixing variables. Commit. And I believe now what I should be able to do is go here, pair release, and I think I can switch on to my branch. Release process, which I think is the one that I just pushed to. Let me just make sure. Publish release. Oh boy, I've got branches floating around. Branch. Publish. Oh, do I not? Make sure that it's out there first. Huh? You not allow me to run from a side branch? It's there. Oh, there we are. I'm just looking for it in the wrong place. Got it. Let's see. 4.7.0. I can't type because I can't see my keyboard. Our microphone getting in the way. Okay, run workflow. 12 minutes ago. There we go. Okay, so that's going to queue up and that's going to run again. Yeah, GitHub Gist is a great idea. Easy to collect interesting cases. Yeah, I do actually have quite a few that are floating out there that make it rather interesting. So if people are interested in seeing Gist, because it is probably one of my favorite things that I ever put together. This here is potentially one of my favorite brain teasers of all time. So underneath the calamities folder, there's a program CS. And I probably should have just linked straight to it. There's the link straight to it. This program has exactly 3 lines that are sane. They're 2, 5, and 8. Everything else is complete garbage. If you fire this program up and run it, I guarantee you it does not do what you expect. And it is totally awesome and epic. So, just kind of reading through, like it was intentionally trying to write as obtuse of code as I could possibly come up with. And I enjoyed every minute of it. There was giggling and cackling and maniacal laughter. It was pretty epic. It was pretty epic. And if you want the answer of how it works, the hint is in the bad stuff folder. And if you go through them in order, it actually kind of starts to exposing the stuff one step at a time. So, and actually, if you want, let me grab let's grab this real quick. Let's see. Let's see. So if you want to see the stream where I actually did the work building it, this is the stream of me cackling to death, putting together the actual stream, and then where's the actual one? Really should save links to some of these. Oh, I think this one is actually buried underneath. I think this one's actually buried under IntelliText, if I remember right. Videos. Because this one's a little older, if I remember right. GitHub Actions, Essential C#. That's really old stuff. That's too old. Essential. All right, I know I have it in here. I'll have to find it. Oh, there it is. There it is. There it is. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Yeah. So there's the one where I actually gave the presentation that I prepped, which I'm thinking I'm going to go through and do an updated variant of it for C# 11 sometime probably in the next 6 months or so. I don't know if there's going to be anywhere where I present it, but I may just record it and post it on YouTube because, frankly, it's a fun talk to give. I have a lot of fun doing it. Robert, welcome aboard. And today it is actually WPF. We are attempting to automate my life because I am lazy. There's probably other reasons, but that's the big one. So with any luck, this thing runs. I probably should have turned off some of the tests or something now that we can run from side branches. So basically, the release process for this library is big, slow, and clunky. Yellow card to the streamer for using prohibited techniques. Yeah, so I'm trying to make it so that I have a single workflow for building and publishing the material design library. The problem is there's a lot of steps involved in it, and it tires me out a lot. Okay, while that thing's running, let's go and look at the other set that we need to do. So the other thing that gets run as part of release is down inside this little MD resource gen. That is startup project. Do I not have... I didn't save a build config or anything. Boy, I thought I had... Oh, no, that's because this is the wrong project. Hang on. I have a separate tool I run for this. Where is that called? Sorry, I gotta hunt it down. I think this is actually something I moved outside. Tab control allow for the opening and closing easily of tab items like on a web browser. Not sure what you're referring to. These guys here. I am using like the control click and whatnot to shut down my tabs because muscle memory. I have a oh, your XAML showed tab items. Yes, that was an issue we fixed a little earlier. That was a demo app, and in the demo, the user was in fact wanting to they were building out that tabbed interface, and the button inside of a tab header was causing grief. So we fixed it. Okay, so this is where the problem is. Okay, so I have another repo because this GitHub helper repo. So if anybody's interested, there's the magical repo. But this repo does... Hang on, I opened it. Oh, it opened in old Visual Studio. Whatever. Okay. But inside of here, I have a launch settings. And you'll note this is the one that I use to do the contributors. But this guy here also has multiple things that it can do. One of it is the contributors. It does some other query stuff for it. But the other thing it does is it will gen me up some output for what icons have changed between version A and version B, which is highly, highly convenient. And so I think what I want to do is migrate some of this code into a different spot, because I like what it's doing. It's down. So what it does is it pulls down the NuGet packages. But I think if I move it, so rather than relying on the NuGet packages, I think I could do it if I just do it inside the repo and switch and do some switches. Brag about the new processor. It is nice. I will admit. So here. So, okay, no one laugh. Okay, there it is. So specifically stop it. AMD Ryzen 7. So I made a small boo-boo when I did this. I had no end of problems getting this thing in. So I've got a slightly older motherboard, and I had checked the manufacturer's site to verify that the processor was supported. The problem is they've got a table of all of the processors they support, and me being in a hurry and not paying too close attention, I only read the first couple columns that said yes, it's supported. The last column turned out to be kind of important. It says, by the way, you need the beta version of the firmware in order for it to be supported. I went, hey. Yeah, so that was a pain in the neck. So I spent, swapping a CPU isn't a terribly difficult job, but I think I spent like 4.5, 5 hours on it. I also took it out and back in multiple times because in my frustrations, I ended up bending a couple of the pins, and oh man, that was, I got my magnifying glass out, my tiny little pliers and screwdrivers, and very carefully straightened the pins out. Oh boy, that took, yeah. So I think I put the CPU in and out like 2 or 3 times before it actually worked. And yeah, I did end up having to update the BIOS in order to get it to work. So that was fun, and only because I have an older motherboard. No other reason. Okay. So all of these things here, because this guy here, this just uses a bunch of reflection to rip through the DLL and pull out all of the enum values from the pack icon. And then it also does a little bit of magic. So once it does, so it does the enum parse bit, but then it also pulls out the path data string from the resource dictionary and shoves it into a hash set as well. That way there's some comparison, so I can identify which ones have had path changes to the icons as well. So I think I want to migrate this code out of here, move it into probably that MD resource gen one. That way I can have this thing compare with the previous release to know what the icon changes are. And I think I can get even more clever because we want latest on ours. So let's go back here. So this thing failed again. But we're getting closer. We are getting closer. And I think I want to make sure I do latest in here, because I think what we can do is we can query the releases, get the prior latest release, and that'll give us the old version to go against. Okay, so let's see why this one failed. Great release. Right. So we don't have we need this maneuver. Right. See, grumble, 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 grumble. Why? My world hates me, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so we're going to go set the environment variable as suggested. And then we're going to leave myself a comment needed for GitHub CLI. We're going to do that. And I think we kicked this thing off again. Let's confirm that this thing did work. So it should have some artifacts. It does. Great. I don't think I care about any of this. I don't think I care about any of that. That's all fine. I kind of wish it didn't warn on error. Let me look at that real quick, because that is the build and test action. Is there a way on the upload artifacts to tell it to just shut up and not worry about if there's no files? Because that's the success case. I kind of want it to just not warn me about it. Only just joined. What are you trying to do? What's the error? BizDev. Welcome, Smudge. So working on automating the release process for this material design library. So right now, doing a release involves a bunch of manual steps, and I am trying to put myself out of a job by letting the GitHub Actions do it. So the plan at the moment, so I guess I should say the manual steps that I would like to automate, the building of the artifacts, that was previously done in a different workflow. That's easy, great. So like building the demo app, building the NuGet packages, got all that working. Creating the GitHub release, updating the content so that it has my list of contributors. So there's a custom action that I built previously that gets me that as a string. Great. And then updating it so that it gens the release notes for the icon changes. GitHub token isn't a thing. Oh boy. Did I type the wrong thing? If it's not, their message is wrong, but let's confirm that. Let's see. Context. Let's see. The GitHub context is the one we want to look at. Yeah, well, I think the issue was a moment ago, I didn't actually assign it anywhere. So this, I believe what it's showing me is that I need to actually create this GH token from GitHub token, which I believe I have. Let me just promote that tab real quick. So because I'm using the GitHub CLI, which comes pre-installed on the agents, that should work. And the $ double curly brace. Correct. Yeah. Complain about something missing. Now, I had mistakenly assumed that it would be intelligent enough to pull it, but that was clearly a bad assumption. The GitHub CLI is somewhat smart in that if your working directory is already inside of a GitHub repo, it infers a lot of context from that, which makes life a lot easier. The one thing I want to do is try to kill off there's a warning that happens when I upload these screenshots. So I've got a UI test framework that gens screenshots on any test failure. And right now, this auto upload complains if there are if there's no files, which kind of like that's the success case. And so I was kind of hoping to see if there was a option to tell it, don't warn. Oh, look at that. If no files found, error, warn, or ignore. What I heard is ignore is the happy case. So what I want to do is that. Okay, so we're going to do that. And once again, rinse, repeat. So adding missing token, ignoring warnings when no screenshots present. Stop, go away, commit, push. GitHub release test, not the easiest thing to search. Yes, completely agree. I actually, so I've been going through and doing just the help docs inside of this. And I found this to be remarkably useful for interacting with it. This is, if I remember correctly, let me look. I think, no, this is a Go repo. I couldn't remember if adding CLI search helps a lot. Yeah, and if you want their repo, they've got a bunch of stuff here in terms of where's the docs section of stuff in here. You added doesn't look present in the docs. Yeah, not overly surprised. I suspect this is that error that I saw was a special case because because it was running inside of a... Yeah, I'm guessing it's not actually here. I'm guessing it's going to be buried underneath auth or token or similar. I would imagine it's buried in something slightly different. GitHub environment. I bet you this is where it is. Yeah. Yeah, this guy here. It's one of those weird things where a lot of CLI apps, when you want to run them in non-interactive, expect environment tokens as a way of not prompting the user, because there's that weird balance between I need to prompt the user for something versus I just want versus I shouldn't prompt because I don't have an interactive terminal. Okay, so prepare release. We're going to run our workflow again. And I want... I've already forgotten the name of my branch. Publish release. Want that, and I want 4.7. Oh, and I've commented out the bit of my workflow that actually publishes the NuGets so that I can just keep running this over and over and over without like actually sending anything out the door. So this is very much in a I'm going to beat this into submission because pipeline-y action work like this usually is a string of red followed by one little tick of green right at the end, which is always the awesome part. Okay, so we're gonna let that go for a moment. I do love that this thing is like a minute and 20. Timing is hard. So playing catch up. Why WPF and what is it? No, great questions. WPF, because I am a WPF fanboy, so I will say that. It is an old, dated framework, and I will admit that. Like, it's still running XAML version 2006, and we're in year currently 2022. So that has been updated in a little bit. But it is a fairly, even though it's dated, it's stable, and there's pros and cons to that. So they have not dropped WPF, though I think the latest update that I heard from their community stand-up that they did is they are pushing it to be more community-driven or something. I don't remember the exact phrasing, something to that effect, which is basically it's in maintenance mode style thing, which it's kind of been that way for years anyway. Because they haven't really put a ton of effort into WPF directly. Most of the updates that it's gotten in like the last 4 years have been updates that benefited other things in addition to WPF. So things like high DPI support. It was basically the case already. The WPF team that they had was, I think, 1 to 3 people, and it wasn't necessarily like a ton of stuff going into it. Did you watch their last cast? I think this is the one. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I got bits and pieces of it. I believe this one is the one where they said it though. But it's basically them just verbalizing what's already been the case for a long time. So it's like some people were really upset, and it's like, yeah, but they're at least being honest with what is already the case. Like, I can't complain too much with them being honest about what's already there. This library has existed for a long time though, so I'm not the original creator of it, but I took over as maintainer 4, 5, 6 years ago. Dang, I'm starting to feel old. Yeah, and I don't watch a lot of the stand-ups. I usually go back and catch the recaps when somebody tells me there was something interesting for the exact same reason. Is my time is too valuable, and I don't have an hour and a half to burn in a lot of cases. But I took over this library because I love doing WPF and styling and theming. Even in my day job, my current project that I'm on is working on a very large WPF application. So there's still plenty of companies that have a lot of stuff built in it. Large portions of Visual Studio are still using WPF. So, uh, so it's one of those. Even though Microsoft may have put it in community stuff, they still haven't migrated their stuff off of it. Um, so there's not really a yeah. So they haven't necessarily killed it off either. But like the updates it's gotten recently, high DPI support. There was a bunch of stuff for the designer for the XAML designer, which a lot of what they did wasn't just for WPF. It was because their XAML designer sucked, and WinUI and UWP also got benefits from that as well. So it was, even though they were fixing the tooling for WPF, it was tooling that was being shared, so it was easier to justify it. Yeah, just to be with the question on how is WPF updated. Currently, it goes as part of the framework when it gets distributed. So it is. If you're on old .NET framework, yes, it distributes that way. But newer stuff, since Net Core 3.1 and Net 5, Net 6, and now Net 7, it comes in the box with those frameworks. You typically just install the extra workload for Visual Studio for desktop development, and you get everything. But then updates to it will go out with, like, if there's a security patch that needs to go out for it, it'll go out with the same security patches that would go out for like other Net 7 stuff. You can, however, with Net, can't remember if you could do it in Net 6. You can do it in Net 7. WPF picked, because WPF is running on the latest .NET frameworks still, because that's the thing. Even though WPF as a framework may be in community support, it still is able to leverage all of the new .NET stuff that comes out. So you still get all of the new .NET features in WPF without really needing to do anything, which is cool. Yeah, and that's absolutely correct. The WPF updates in Net 7 were like tiny. But yeah, WPF runs on Net 7. I think this library is actually, I believe I added Net 7 support to it. It's fairly simple. You can do single XE deployments, AOT if you really want to try and go down that route. If it is not possible to install Net 7, will the computer receive WPF if Net 4.8 is installed there? So yeah, so .NET Framework 4.8 is not out of support. So the trying to remember. Yeah, so and actually I guess 4.7 hasn't reached end of life either. That was surprising me. I thought 4.8 was the only current one. So if you've got a WPF app targeting Net Framework 4.8, security updates for WPF will go out via Windows Update with the regular channels to update the framework. It's usually less about a vulnerability in WPF and more about if there are security updates or similar things for the framework, and WPF just kind of tags along for the ride. So is this library mostly reverse compatibility for WPF as there, or preference over UWP or Maui? So this library came about because the default styling in WPF, I'll say it nicely, is crap. It's just pretty enough that a lot of people don't change the defaults. And so the idea here is a theming library for WPF that follows Google's material design so that you can look at it. Now, some people hate that immediately because they go, that's Google's design paradigm. Why are you putting that on my Windows box? Back off. And sure, fine. If that's the perspective, go for it. Some people really like the Fluent design that came out in like the I think it came out either end of UWP, early WinUI 2 range, in that vicinity, with their Fluent design stuff, which is what a lot of things flow towards. And so people see the material design stuff and they go, icky. It's like, well, yeah, but I would take this look over default WPF most days of the week. So you could say that it's reversing compatibility. I would say it's just putting it's giving an alternate theming option out there. There's lots of other theming libraries WPF devs can choose from. Like if you want to go commercial, there's things like Telerik that come with, I don't know, 16 built-in themes that you can toggle and do all kinds of stuff with, which is great. Sure, if you want to go that route, you're welcome to. I think this is one of the few WPF theming libraries that's still actively maintained and isn't commercial. I think this and Ma apps are the only, they're the biggest ones out there. So it's one of the top two. I definitely like the idea of personally WPF. You was almost dated as soon as it released, let alone now. Yeah, and the naming in here, so Google threw a curveball when they did Material Design 3, because Material Design 2, there was technically multiple points where they changed or added things to it, but there wasn't actual releases, and there wasn't like versioning where you could see the old stuff. So there was a couple times where like naming got changed, and this library had followed the naming up until it got changed. It was like, wait, what? You can't just rename stuff on us. Like that's a breaking change for us to rename things. So we've started going through with like the Material Design 3, adding that in with support as well. So if people want to use some of the new Material Design 3 stuff, both are in the box. You can mix and match if you want. It depends on what you're building. Some apps like to bring in and do and let this library kind of drive the theming, so you get a lot of stuff right out of the gate just with the getting started. But like the project that I'm on during my day job, we've got like a dedicated designer, and the company's got this whole design language they've put together, and not everybody has that going for them. So we don't let this library drive, but we leverage it because there's a lot of useful stuff in here. Semver, let's see, what is that? I think you should just make the breaking name changes. If people pick a UI tech based on web stacks, they have to expect web tech's pacing, in my opinion. Yeah, and I try to balance. There's a balancing act here too, because Semver's definition of breaking change, like in C#, it's already kind of a little ambiguous of whether we're talking source level breaking or binary breaking change. And then with this library, there's also the concept of visual breaking change. Because I can technically, if we say like source level compatibility, I can make changes that are private that probably aren't breaking, but then some people would go, well, you changed that behavior, that's a major breaking change for me. Okay, great, I get it. Like, so there's a bit of a balancing act there. There's a few places where I've just straight up said, you know what, even if it's not a major version rev, we're doing breaking changes. Like for example, the icons in this library, I've got a nightly process that pulls updates for them. And so I've just straight up said, there may be breaking icon changes, and my compromise is I'll document them for you. So for example, this here, like I will straight up list, here's all the new icons, and there's apparently a bunch. Here's all the ones where there was some sort of visual change to the icon. And then here's the ones that are straight up removed that there just isn't a change for. There's a minor increment. Ultimately, so as long as you're consistent, the consumer gets to choose which changes they update to. Yeah, and I try to be fairly consistent there. We don't do a lot of trying to remember the Semver terminology for the third digit, the bug fix version ones. There's not a ton of those that go in, because it's really hard for me to, most of the changes in here aren't that minor. A lot of times it's very consistent that there's feature requests or visual changes or stuff going in. So most of the releases tend to be minor version or major version revs. Like we did do a 461, but there was, you'll note that it went from 460, 461, and then what will be a 4.7, and then the previous one I think was 4.5. So it's mostly minor version. Patch, thank you. It's mostly the patch ones that I don't do a ton of, because usually I've got a queue of PRs of new stuff coming in. So most releases are going to get some set of features and whatnot bundled into the mix. Oh, look at that. We got back to our failure. Stat NuGet, no such file or directory. Well, what did I do wrong? Let's see. That... What did I do wrong here? I wonder, can I? Yes, I can rerun failed jobs. The problem is what I really want to do is rerun failed jobs with updated YAML, because I'm trying to see what the heck I did wrong. The download appeared to download to the directory. I'm guessing I need to specify not oh, that's why. It's because I'm on a Unix system and slash is going to root the file path. That's what it is. I can't do slash at the beginning because that thinks it's root of the file path slash new. Okay, then blah, 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 blah. I'm a moron. Okay, I'm a moron. I guess we could do this, right? And go all the way to the root. That would work. Because there's GitHub, I have the context open though. Yeah, GitHub workspace. So I could do this and just fully root the thing. Yeah, let's do that. Rather than doing relative file paths, we can fully qualify it. Yeah. Yeah, default working directory on the runner for steps and default action, which should be fine. This one here isn't doing a checkout. So I don't technically have anything, like it should be empty aside from what gets downloaded here. Let's see. Fixing file paths. Okay, great. We're probably going to end up doing a checkout though here in a minute, because I would like to get air release, run workflow, push release, and 4.7.0. And I am also realizing that if I want to make sure I whack this. I think it's going to cause a problem when it goes to publish. Okay, so that'll once again take a minute to run. This is the drawback of this thing, is it's gonna be slow. But while that's going, I would like to get this pack icon diff tool migrated into the repo so that I can run it. And this is doing a bunch of wacky stuff where it downloads with NuGet exe and then does reflection into the assembly and yada, 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 yada. I think there's a much simpler approach. Because if we run this inside of the repository, we can just straight up go and get it. Though, let me look. Because the .NET NuGet command does have... Yeah, I'd have to do magic if I wanted to do that. I think it's just as safe for me to use the tag on the repo to find the version as it is to use that same version to go to NuGet. I can't think of a reason why those would be out of sync. They shouldn't ever be out of sync unless I've made a mistake somewhere. Because I don't really want to run on Windows, and I kind of would prefer to, like, the NuGet exe is not exactly a fun thing to play with. Kind of sucks in a lot of cases. I think that's, I think what I probably want to do is inside of this resource gen thing, which is basically our little catch-all CLI to do all the things. At some point, I really want to update it to use the system command line library. Let's see, NuGet exe is much better than it used to be. What's your tooling doing now? So, and I think I shared this link before you dropped in. So let me grab it again real quick. So this is the repo here. So this is one that I basically have thrown just a bunch of GitHub-y stuff into that I use for various things. In this case, it's the diff icons method that I'm actually interested in converting over. So it downloads two NuGet packages, the current version and the previous version. It extracts their contents and then does this process DLL thing, which then does reflection to pull out the DLL that contains all of the icons. And it's actually what is responsible for that documentation page that I showed just a second ago, where we show all these pack icon changes. So I don't write this. That's way too much work. Dear heavens, I would never survive. But the output of that diff icons method is this content. So ideally what I want is this pipeline to gen me that content, because I don't want to think that hard about it. I kind of want to say, when I run this pipeline and I say, give me a release, fix the contributors, build the artifacts, build me the GitHub release, attach all the things, set the content, do the icon diff update documentation. That way I don't have to do any of it, because I forget stuff and things go wrong and my world ends. But the whole point of doing all of this reflection stuff is just to go after this enum, this pack icon kind. The correct way to do that would be with an MS build task. Yeah, we can. I think for this little bit here, I think what I'm really interested in doing though is pulling this back out, because the only thing that this cares about is extracting the enum values and then the vector data for it. So and then hopefully Visual Studio gets to be tested a little bit. So for example, the pack icon kind, this enum here, you can see my scroll bar is a big and points to Visual Studio. So somewhere around line 13,287. Because this guy's auto-generated. He builds that up, and then this guy here is also auto-generated. You'll note this is just a dictionary, but this dictionary here has all the stuff in it, effectively all of the path data. Yeah. Yes. So, yeah, I think the way I would say it is, I'm wanting to know, when I do a release of the material design themes library, what pack icon changes have occurred. And the only reason it's mildly complicated is because there's an automated process that's updating them. And so I guess that's another thought, is rather than doing it at the end, I could look at the automated process that's genning it and try to do it there and just keep a rolling update. That's an interesting thought. So going back, so the thing that's actually doing the work for that, if it can output changes, well, it certainly can, because I wrote it. So it's basically just a handful of steps. So do a checkout, setup.net, and then invoke that MD resource gen thing, passing the icon switch. So that the tool that's doing the genning is this guy here. It calls main. It passes icons, which does icon thing run async. So this guy certainly could do more stuff. He certainly could do more stuff. So he just grabs a template and then rips through adding everything. And it gets mildly interesting. Like, it is going against the materialdesignicons.com in order to pull down the source data. Like, this is where it comes from. So even though I may run on a nightly process, they update, I don't know, every so often. Usually I see 2 or 3 updates every single week go through. But this guy could gen, because he knows the old version and the new version of the file, he could gen the differences, and he could add those to the wiki. That's the other thing, is it's the data needs to end up in the wiki. But there is no reason that this couldn't be put together. At a minimum, yeah, it should be config. It's one of those, it hasn't changed in years. I am only mildly responsible for this. I've updated it plenty of times. There's a lot of things inside of this little resource gen project that need to go through and be updated. I haven't updated it for a lot of the Net 7 stuff beyond doing it. The HTTP client, there's plenty of interesting bits in here. Yeah, I am wondering, though, that is a much more interesting prospect of just having this thing keep the running list. And he doesn't actually even need to publish it. I'm kind of thinking that he could just tack in to text file artifacts that get published. That might even be easier. Because if he runs, think this through. Let's think this through. If he runs and goes through and does all of this, right now it's not reading the current file, but that could change. If he were to read the current file to know the current set of icons and the current set of path data, he could then do the same diffing bit to figure out the adds, removes, and changes. That's not terribly difficult. It's like my other algorithm isn't doing anything advanced. It's just using hash sets. Once it knows those changes, right now it's opening up a pull request, but I'm kind of thinking that that might need to just go away in favor of straight up pushing. And the only reason I say that is this pull request, when you create a pull request via a action, and maybe I should try doing this with the CLI instead. When you do it with an action, it doesn't trigger the PR verification workflow, which is really annoying because I would really prefer it to go through the PR verification workflow. So I've just been auto merging it, but there's no reason. Okay, let's take a look at that. Oh, our other one failed. What'd you fail on this time? Wait, what? Oh, not a git repos. Oh, it definitely should. Curious that it doesn't kick that workflow off. Sounds like a GitHub bug. It's actually documented behavior, and I'm trying to remember where it is. So a GitHub action can't chain into another GitHub action. So There should be a big asterisk next to that, because there are certain rules. So in general, an action can't cause another action. So you don't ever get into that infinite spiral loop where action A does something that triggers action B, B triggers A, and around and around and around you go. So you never get into that situation with actions. However, there are ways around that, because GitHub can't always know when it's an action triggering another one. And so different things with like webhooks or manual invocations, you can definitely force the kicks, but by default, an action won't trigger another action. But yeah, it is mildly obnoxious behavior. Yeah, there should be some kind of A/B constraint. Yeah. I agree. It's the standard algorithm that you get asked in interview questions of, given a graph, right? Figure out if there's any cycles. And I guess the hard part though too is knowing if there's going to be cycles gets really difficult once you start adding in like conditionals and whatnot. Okay, so this thing doesn't know that it's a GitHub repository. Mostly because I fired this thing off and didn't do any sort of checkout. I think... So there's two options with the GitHub CLI. You can either tell it what the repository is, or you can go through and do the checkout. I think in this case, I actually want to do the checkout. Only because if we update the tool... Well, I guess I'm not guaranteed to need it. I'm not guaranteed to need it. So let's do this release. Let's just specify it. I think it was like -r. Yeah, we'll do -- repo. So it's owner/repo. And I believe there's something on my context for that. Because I believe you know about yourself. Is there a GitHub step secrets matrix? No, it's got to be the GitHub context. And there is got to be it's like an owner or repo or something in here. The owner and repository name. Hey, look at that thing right there. Gimme. Oh, and I need to stop minimizing and remember that I'm changing tabs. Let's do that. And then I want to do that. Okay. And once again, specifying repo for the CLI. Stop it. Commit, push. And then we will go back. We will go prepare release, and we will go run, and we will tell you to publish. We will do 4.7.0 and run workflow. Okay, and there you go. And we let that run. Okay, so back to the idea of this guy running. So if he does the diff and he's run on a nightly process, rather than him opening up a PR, because I don't know if that's I don't think this is actually overly valuable. It's don't forget to delete the test release. Oh, thank you. I think it didn't get created this time, but we will double check. Still good for the moment. If rather than going through and creating it, if it just pushed in, there is no reason it couldn't just push in some extra artifact that contained the data. That would be convenient. The other thing, part of the reason why I kind of want the running set of data Guess, do I care? I'm just worried. So there's been a number of times where I've seen the material design icons where there's a change and then it's reverted. Do I care about that in my release notes? Don't know if I do. Don't know if I do. Your nightly would be created a diff per night run, so this boy would then need to collate those changes. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that there is almost like a pack icon current release notes changes .text file or something that he's going to read and effectively append to or edit. And it probably should be like a JSON file or something to make my life easier. And then when we get around to this release trigger, all it has to do is pick that up because if that JSON file exists, when we kick off this release process, it will run. It will be able to pull that file down. Because I think as part of the build steps, what I would end up doing is in here, when it's building the NuGets and everything else, I think I would just add another upload artifact where it uploads that JSON file. This guy would then download said JSON file and do the needful with it to build it up. Yeah. And potentially on release, you'd PR last time we released date change. Yeah, I think that works. I think that works. So then I guess we start cleaning up this resource gen tool a little bit and doing it here. I think that's the path of least resistance. Okay, so step one, we're gonna file scope namespace some of these things and clean some of this up. Because this tool was initially meant to be just run locally. It wasn't necessarily designed. I don't think this has any. I don't think there's any major problems with it, but wait, what is this for loop doing? Get current directory. Loop while get directory name is. Failed to find file path. Oh, so it's going on a hunting spree for the file up through the directory structure. Got it. Okay. So it goes a walking until it finds it, and then it writes it in. Okay. Okay, so without changing too much of this, because this is going to bother me, we are going to clean up some of this stuff. And I don't really want to touch all the Roslyn stuff, because every time I touch it, Brian doesn't find the file by looking for a dot, but you can have dots in the folder path. Oh, is that what it was doing? Oh, this is get full path by the dot. So this will grab from current directory and convert the relative path dot into fully qualified path. But then it hunts the path by combining that directory with the file name that it's. Yeah, no, I stared at this for loop for a second too, going, what the heck? The worst part is I may have written this. This screams of something that previous Kevin would have done. This feels okay, and this feels like this really should be air right line. Like we kind of want to not be that. Okay, so we're going to avoid touching that, and we're going to avoid touching that. Okay, so let's start here. Let's just walk through this. So get source data. It does. So it parses this. This gives me a. Let's just convert you. Use explicit type, please. So this icon class is. Let's see here. This is something very simple. This is just everything that got parsed out of the downloaded data from here. So it just does all of the parsing. There's some weird stuff to deal with naming of it, because the naming on material design icons is slightly different than what we want in C#, and does all of the needful, because apparently we've seen dupes before. That's exciting. And then clean up aliases, because there's been a number of times we've run into situations where because I recall dealing with this, where aliases differed either just by case or differed by one with an underscore and one without, and I just wasn't going to deal with that mess. Okay, and all of that stuff. Oh, there's actually a cleaner way to do this. I'd have to go back and look. Since we're already pulling in some of the Roslyn bits to do this, there's an analyzer library to know what's a valid identifier in C#. That was a rabbit trail one night that I went down. I pulled open the language spec to figure out what constitutes a valid identifier in C#. This is a very simplistic check. What it actually is much more complicated. But it was a fun little read. Okay, so this is going to get us the set of new icons. And so really what I want, I think, is there's the data, there's the name, there's the aliases. If I get me a set of current icons, sure, we'll just do new. That can get source data async, have a path passed to it, so it can get old new. Get source data in this case is literally just doing the HTTP client out. So this is getting the raw in here. We can post this up. This is literally just pulling the raw JSON back. I think I want to wait and look at, because get icons parses that JSON and deals with some of the weirdness of it. So I think I actually want to do a comparison between icon classes. I think, and actually we can go one step better. We can go record, and we can go string name, string data, ilist, string aliases, semicolon, and then we can delete all this garbage. Boom, done. Let's see, should probably nest those calls so get source data calls the next method instead of the consumer calling it with the result. That was a breaking change, by the way. Pre-record aliases was defaulted to empty list. Now it's null. Ah. Oh, that is a good point. I don't think it's going to matter. I don't think it's going to matter. This is internal to this tool. But that is an excellent point. Let's just go take a quick gander down here where it actually creates the icon to make sure that I'm not going to get bit by that. So, oh, yuck. Yuck, 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 yuck. We do add and remove aliases. Okay, we're going to cut this thing down a little bit because we don't have that many. So the only place we are calling that constructor, enable nullable annotations. That is an excellent point. We should. Okay, let's fire that up. How many warnings do we get? So this project has a because I try to encourage people to contribute, I have nullable reference types enabled on the other projects, but I don't promote warnings to errors at build time except on the pipeline. That's been my compromise between wanting to make sure everything gets handled and wanting it to be easy for people to get started with the library and contribute. I'd offer to help, but I've had way too many vodkas this evening. Well, I'm consuming Mountain Dew. If it helps, it's like 11:30 p.m. for me. I still have caffeine in my system, so I'm currently going strong, but we'll see how long that lasts. Usually I've noticed there's a point where it just boom. And if you get the right number of vodkas, you hit your Ballmer's peak, I believe is the rule. Right? So the obligatory XKCD reference for anybody who needs it. 7:30 7:37 a.m. and it's evening? You have an odd definition of evening. Okay, let's look at what are you? Okay, what is your problem now? Post, read. Let's see. Demo app is a directory. Yeah, and well, doesn't that just suck? Let me look. I think, how have we been doing it before? So great. So there's a small difference in that we've been uploading the demo app artifact as a zip, and the other ones we've been unzipping. Okay. Can download artifact come down as a zip and save me the trouble of having to re-zip it back up? Like no extract or something? But was reading the build step. My sleep patterns are a little odd. More so when I'm on holiday. Amen. I can completely understand that. This is yuck. I does not appear to have it. Oh, I just want it zipped up. Like I don't want you to extract. Is it that hard to ask? Let's just take a quick gander. I don't want to spend a ton of time looking at their code, but I imagine there are download all artifacts, download response, downloaded to, blah, blah, blah. Right. So that is place only. Okay, so it's not. It's wherever this artifacts client lives. Yeah, and that's going to be buried underneath that guy. Oh, sup, Acid Rain? Welcome. We are dual tasking it between trying to automate the release process and then updating the process for doing the icon release notes as well between the two. I guess the simplest way to go through and do this is just to zip up the directory at the end. I think that's the easiest path. What is the let's see. Let's see, give me an Ubuntu shell. No. Process exited. What? So, Ubuntu. I'm guessing when I updated from Windows 10 to 11 that my WSL got all foobarred. Excellent. Oh, that's not going to cause me problems. Okay. Linux create zip. I don't remember what the command is. Yeah, sure, great. Somebody just give me the simple, I'm going to assume zip is already installed. I would like to, file name, can I blob pattern it? Use -F to not expect a zip. Oh, on the upload side of things. I don't know if that's what I want, though. I don't know if that's what I want. Because the actual artifacts themselves for the release, I do kind of want oh, hey, that one actually generated. Hey, that's cool. We actually got it to gen again. Oh, that's progress. So delete you. I actually do want because the zip file itself, open, don't need you anymore. Come on, scan it, convince yourself that there's no viruses. Thinking. Because the actual contents of this artifact that I'm trying to upload are the output of a bin directory. Come on, open. Oh, you are open. Just on a different thing. So I actually do want a zip file that contains the demo app in a variety of frameworks so that when somebody downloads it, they can decide which way they want to run it. So in an ideal situation, I actually do want to keep the compressed archive. Well, the bit it's complaining about isn't a zip file. Expect to be a zip. But if I do a -F, my concern there is it's going to treat it as the notes file, and I don't actually want to pass up the release notes, at least not yet. I just want to attach as an additional artifact. But you are correct. It is squawking on this guy here. See you, Justin Bieber. Which is why I'm thinking that the simplest thing might just be to zip up all of the contents. Oh, as your main terminal app, I think you get the process. That is a good question. Oh, nope, it's worse than that. So I recently installed a new CPU, which required updating my BIOS, and apparently virtualization is not enabled in my BIOS anymore. Lovely. Excellent. Well, I need to do that, but that will require stopping the stream, which is not exactly a great idea. I think what I can do though is something akin to this. So I think, and I don't think often. Let's see. Name zip demo app. Let's do a run command. And then we're gonna do let's see, demo app.zip, and I want you to be demo app. If I'm understanding this correctly, that I wish it had defined what the -R was, but maybe I'm missing it. We're gonna just try it and see what happens. R, hope for the best. I think that matches. I don't really care about specifying compression. And I'm kind of wondering if I even need oh, Firelock, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. I think the download contained in the release article is your -r repo parameter. Let me look. So was the final parameter is just the release notes and you can. Yeah. So oh, we need to we need to change this guy up. Let's see. Demo app. In theory, this should become demo app.zip if the above command is correct. That it attaches your dash repo as a zip to the release and then final parameter. Or is it just notes? Or maybe I've misunderstood. So I don't. So generate release notes, I think, is a standalone option from their docs here. And I believe, if I understood correctly, the syntax is command various. So it bothers me that they call it tag and then files, and then flags is something apparently that they didn't bother to think that needed to be included in usage. But down here, they show various things where it's, here's the tag that I want to use for the release, followed by my options. And then here's where they show attaching the files, which you're providing via in those command options is the files which you're providing via the -- repo. I thought my -- repo went here. All by those themselves, which you provide the end of your args. So my limited understanding, having not gotten this to work successfully yet, is that the files had to come after all of the options, but they don't have. I don't think they have an they don't have an example in here that includes both the file paths as well as combining with other flags. Which feels like an oversight that they don't include the flags in their usage, and they don't have a sample showing flags plus files. I only put files at the end because I assumed that there needed to be last. Yeah. I completely believe that they're crap. I've got a colleague and she has a knack for finding all of the weird edge cases of the docs don't cover this, and I'm not entirely sure what to do anymore. It's like, oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah, so I think full send. We'll see what happens. Okay, I'm gonna clear up some of these things so I don't have to look at them. Let's see. Prepare release, run workflow, and then publish release, and then we're gonna go with 4.7.0 full send. We'll see how many rows of zeros. If you provide -- repo, is that an optional file? Is that an additional options? Oh yeah, you're correct. I am reading it as the latter. That is a good question because I had read it as this is another flag, or what I would have called an option with an argument. And mine, in theory, should be option argument. And it's not clear to me where it goes. I think all of the the dash dash flags or options, however we want to call them, I think are supposed to go between the tag and the files. I think. But I have nothing to base that. I have absolutely nothing to base that on. I suppose the actual, but it seems special, like it was something that applied to the whole command. Yeah, depending on how it's interpreted. So I took it from the perspective, okay, small tangent. There is a wonderful library. So if you do any command line work in .NET, highly recommend this library. I'm biased. I contribute to it. I think it's awesome. But inside of here, there is, I think we have a good docs. Where is the history? One of these things had a breakdown of, where is the terminology? Oh, that's right. We moved it into the actual real docs. I forgot about this. Command line syntax. I view that. Really interesting that they didn't like it. I mean, so some people have strong opinions on it because there's several libraries out there for command line apps that existed long before this. This is the one that powers the .NET SDK. So if there's any questions about whether it's stable enough, I mean, Microsoft has staked their SDK on it, so there's that. But from the terminology here, I was interpreting it, the inherited flags, as an option that existed on a parent command, typically like the root command or something. That's the way I had interpreted it. But they didn't understand the UI aspects because they were web-based. They couldn't be bothered to translate something text. Oh, ouch. I am sorry. I am sorry. Yeah, that's the way I had interpreted it. But yeah, we will see how it goes. I know that there's some other tooling that the GitHub team has built that's in C# that actually uses that system command line library as well, which I love because then I intuitively know that the syntax is going to behave in a sane manner. But this one's written in Go, so I have no idea. I have no idea. It seems to behave in the same manner, except for all of their examples are crap. So aside from that minor detail, okay, I closed the one thing I wanted. I want to keep that action open so I can actually watch it go. Action told me much more about them than it told me about me. Yeah, and that was actually one of the motivations for building that system command line library is there's a lot of different opinions out there about how CLI should behave. The closest thing to a standard is POSIX. Um, but there's enough there, and there's a lot of ambiguity around certain areas of it that is not consistent, like POSIX bundling, where you can chain a bunch of your options into a single one, and it goes, oh yeah, if you do dash, like Git is a good example, like Git clean FSX, where you chain a bunch of things together, is the same as if you were to specify dash F, or what is it? Git clean DFX is the same as dash D dash F dash X because it's bundled all of those things together. And it gets to be having libraries that do all of that support. Yeah. Wasn't there an open source library command that yeah, so there was one called, and that was part of why Microsoft ended up writing one too, is there was, at the time they did it, I think there were only like 3 or 4 that were being actively maintained. So there was a there was one called like command line by itself, I believe there was a NuGet package for it, but it wasn't one that was actively being maintained. There was one from Nate McMaster that was actively being maintained, and at the time, Nate was actually working for Microsoft, and he helped on the system command line library. So that was so every time people were like, "Oh, you're trying to steal from him," we're like, "You do know he's helping, right?" Like, it's kind of hard to say that we did it. Oh yeah, Spectre's awesome. And so the guy who actually runs Spectre, he's actually consulting on the system command line library as well. And there's been a lot of collaboration because the system command line library at one point, you'll note in the repo there's like this rendering project where we had experimented with doing like ANSI codes and how to do the fancy rendering stuff. And then we're like, why? Spectre is awesome. And so we kind of switched gears and said, you know what would be better is if we just made this library and Spectre work really well together. That way everything could benefit. So there's a branch on the Spectre project that is, because right now they have their own built-in parsing, but there's different bugs with it and whatnot. Yeah, Spectre is very good at dealing with all of the I don't know if it's necessarily cross-plat. I'd say it's almost difference in terminals because ANSI support across different terminals is really all over the board. Like even in Windows, and I didn't realize this prior, but like the underlying rendering for your CMD and PowerShell terminals used to be different. In latest Windows, they've now moved to be the same, thank goodness, rather than one being crap. But they used to have different rendering, and there was a whole bunch of weirdness around, well, if this version do this, if this version do that. And so Spectre does a really good job of dealing with all of those edge cases, especially on like Linux, where there is a large variety of terminals that people may choose from. It does a pretty good job of, yeah, your fallback mechanisms. Of trying to figure out what the terminal capabilities are and then make an intelligent guess about the best way to render something. That way you can still get a reasonable experience without it just feeling like crap. Because oftentimes anybody who writes ANSI codes directly to the terminal, because this was the problem we ran into very quickly, is it's really hard to do that in a cross-platform way. You end up almost having to build this terminal abstraction and doing a lot of stuff. Yes, absolutely. And shoot, I'm blanking on the name of it. It's a very so the one that you get in Rider, I believe, is the same one that you pick up in like VS Code and Git Kraken, because it's been a fairly popular open source terminal implementation, and I think it's gained popularity. Shoot, what is its name? Oh, thanks for the follow, Smudge. It's largely been popular because it was cross-plat and a reasonably good one. And so a bunch of people have picked it up and embedded it into their stuff, which has been I've approved of, because anytime you can get some level of standardization or at least get everybody to agree on a solution, you're halfway there. Halfway there. Okay. So close. I want to see this thing run. I really want to see this thing work. So follow for teaching me something. Well, thank you. I usually I stream for fun because I enjoy coding, and my rationale is if I'm having fun, somebody else might enjoy it too.